heart disease, cancer, diabetes and Alzheimer's come roaring in from nowhere. What happened? Well, the British Empire happened basically, and it happened before that. But the big problem was that was when we started refining sugar in massive amounts. We were farming that stuff as far away as New Zealand, in Australia, and in South Africa, and Jamaica, and places like that. And we started processing all the foods. We were shipping, we had armies everywhere in the old empire days, and we had to shunt food out to India, and we were getting a lot of local stuff there as well. But you can't send fresh veg and put it in a hold and send it off to South Africa, because it will be liquid by the time it gets there. So you have to denature the food. We were fighting battles in World War I. We were actually feeding our troops on bully beef and all some kinds of stuff that were canned up and sent down to the trenches. And so we stopped eating real food. Now that's not a surprise to many people. I think the timing of it is very interesting. When you look at the modern medical system, you've got to start asking some harsh questions. Name one disease cured by modern medicine because it addressed the root cause. I'll wait. Not a single one. Doctors are fed up with this. Doctors did not go, I work with doctors all day long, I speak to them virtually daily, and I'll tell you, doctors do not go into medicine not to heal people, they go in to make a difference, and they're completely hamstrung by the system that they find themselves a part of.
I'm here at a $4 trillion business. That's the healthcare system in our country, hospitals. But what if I told you that this $4 trillion business doesn't actually get you well? Doesn't actually do what it's advertising that it's supposed to do. The healthcare system in this country isn't designed to get you well. It isn't designed to figure out what's causing your illness. I know this. I'm a doctor. I'm part of this system, or at least I was. Our healthcare system is designed to keep you coming back for pills, for treatments. That's how profits are maximized. But what really gets me a little sick inside and why I do the work I do is because I know that diet and lifestyle are way more powerful than what happens at this business, and they're free. So if you're sick with anything, thyroid disease, aches and pains, obesity, diabetes, whatever, rheumatoid arthritis, interventions like diet and lifestyle should always be your first course of action before you become a lifetime customer at this place. That's what I'm trying to change.
Here's another doctor. Dr. Ahmed Malik says the army is not defending the nation, the police is not protecting the public, the law is not bringing criminals to justice, politicians are not serving the people, the news isn't informing the masses, the doctors aren't healing the sick, and hardly anyone gives a damn. Get the idea? We're currently living in insanity right now. Wear that jacket for a bit. Okay, so we're prepped to, look, we have a set number of years on Earth. Who's figured that out by now? There's, the death rate is still 1 per person with a 100% hit ratio. We're all going to make it. Nobody gets out of this gig alive. There's a day in your future with your name on it. That opens up a whole other bunch of questions. I was having a chat with one of my researchers the other day, and he said, I think we're here for probably 3 reasons, Phillip. I went, okay, go. He said, we're here either for education, entertainment, or punishment, which I thought was quite good. Are we evolved from a monkey? And no, we're not. We get into that in the Origins book. The Origins book actually posts a number of very, very interesting things about this experience we're going through called life itself, and we'll tackle those as we go. Look at this. If medicine worked, you wouldn't need to refill your prescription, would you? You certainly wouldn't need to keep going back. And the answer is, they want you to keep coming back. Modern medicine isn't designed to heal you, it's designed to keep you coming back. The medical system worldwide is a very successful business model. It's a revolving door. They don't address the root cause, they just treat the symptoms, which creates a revolving door effect. Next brilliant shortcut. If you believe you are what you eat, modern medicine doesn't believe that, because if you go to Guy's Hospital, one of the top teaching hospitals, they've got Maccas in the food court. And they don't care who knows it. I spent years studying nutrition in med school, said no medical doctor ever. Doctors, if they're fortunate, get a few, 1 or 2 lectures on nutrition. It's not part of it. How do you know that? Because if you go to some of these hospitals like Southampton General, they recently, a little while ago, had to get rid of Burger King because of the complaints. Health chiefs to close Burger King restaurant inside hospital after years of criticism. If you go to Addenbrooke's just outside Cambridge, this is a top cardio unit. People come from all over the world to learn cardiology at Addenbrooke's, and at lunchtime they can go down and have Murder King. Look at this, you've got blood tests this way. We're not failing on a complicated level here. Doctors know it, they hate it as much as we do. Cardiology, Burger King, and by the way, in 2000 when we were looking at the Health Wars project, we were doing that, we were picking up on the work of Weston Price. Weston Price in the 1920s was famous for saying, look, we've got a whole bunch of these cultures in the world, They're mostly agrarian cultures who don't get cancer, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's. They're not getting what we're dying from. So let's find out what they're doing that we're not, or what they're not doing that we are. And a lot's come on since then. It's pretty clear what the problem is. Nobody's, you haven't to be a rocket scientist to look at this. Doctors are not trained in therapeutic nutrition. This is an important one because doctors are not trained in nutrition, but the therapeutic word means nutrition can fix you. And if you are what you eat, and I think pretty much everyone understands that, every cell in your body comes from what you initially put into the body, then it shouldn't be of any surprise that you can actually reverse conditions based on what goes on your dinner plate. Doctors, this is not what doctors are trained to do. They do diagnosing. Now, people say to me, tell me about the diagnosis thing, Philip. If I want to know what's wrong with me, a doctor's able to do that. And I would say, yeah, that's essentially what you want to do is get a black Sharpie pen and a big thick black line down the center of the paper, divided into diagnosis and treatment. They're actually pretty good at finding out what's wrong with you. I'm against some of these scans like radiation scans and nuclear tracing and the rest of it. Mammograms. I mean, can you think of anything more criminally asinine than persuading women with a straight face to slam their breasts in a cold fridge door and then irradiate them with over 1,000 times the rads of a chest X-ray to find out they've got a cancer problem? It doesn't make any sense. And yet people are frightened because they're not, they don't know about this. My doctor would never do anything to hurt me. And doctors, as I said, almost all doctors, go in for the right reasons. Doctors receive little to no training in therapeutic nutrition, yet nutrition determines inflammation, blood sugar, immune resilience, hormone balance, recovery capacity. Next time you see a blue-lit ambulance, the hapless soul inside was likely undone by nutrition, heart attacks and stuff like that. Doctors are neither evil nor stupid, they know what's going on. Doctors do tend to have lifestyles. And I find this a big compromising factor. Certainly we saw this with COVID, where doctors were told, look, you're going to lose your job unless you take the shot, do this, do that. And guess what? Hundreds of doctors refused. And in America, it was even worse. I mean, the coercion was just something off the chart. You're not responsible for the programming you received in childhood. Now, if you go back to Mum, she received a lot of programming because doctors obviously were very highly thought of, a bit like thinkers were back in the 30s and 40s. And so the idea that they could not have the whole picture when that was the whole thing that was being presented to the public was unthinkable to them. And unfortunately, it cost a lot of them everything. There's no shortage of information out there at this point. Ignorance is now an active choice. So let's see, in ranked order of beastliness, what's actually doing us in. Medical drug intervention, heart disease, cancer, stroke, pulmonary lung disorders, diabetes, Alzheimer's, COVID jab damage. If you go further down the list, you get this. And what I've done is I've taken all of that up and I've stuck it into the ABCs of Disease book. And in this book, I'm telling you that they're divided into disease chapters. I tell you what these problems are, what the causes are, generally, and what works and what doesn't. And this book has resulted from about 30 years of research. Lots of doctors pitched in on this one because they wanted to get this information out to the public. Here's another brilliant shortcut. Learn to navigate the minefield. And the first question you've got to ask is, when you face a man with an overflowing sink, what does he go for next? Does he go for the mop or the tap? This is an important one. Because modern medicine is mopping, it's not turning the tap off. Casey Means, by the way, she was nominated for US Surgeon General. So, I mean, she's a top pollutant medic over there. Metabolic dysfunction is linked to what we eat, drink, slap on our skin, look at and listen to. And of course, that's one of the major problems we've got today when you look around the supermarket and see what's actually being sold as food. It's hardly surprising a lot of people are being poisoned over a period of time. Chemical and microplastics linked to global health crisis, including infertility. We're not just fighting diseases, we're fighting against a system that profits from our sickness. Do you honestly think the $1 trillion cancer system is looking for a way to put itself out of business? Like cancer charities, Alzheimer's charities, and so on, of course not. In fact, the Mail came out with an article, maybe we'll look at it after lunch, that said that changing your diet can actually reduce incidences of Alzheimer's by 50%. Now, if you came up with a drug that could reduce the incidence of a deadly condition like that by 50%, you could write your own ticket. That appeared in the mail one day, and after that just vanished. And of course, we've got the attention span of a laboratory amoeba these days based on all the information that's we're getting buried in. And so the problem is people don't retain that sort of information at all. The medical system doesn't make money out of healthy or dead people. The money is in the fear, which creates repeat business. The sooner we realize this, the wiser we become. You're looking here at the most prolific mass murderer in human history. His name is Dr. Anthony Fauci. The greatest trick the CDC ever pulled was convincing the world you could be sick without having symptoms. This goes back to the HIV scam that came out. Once again, there was never a gold standard isolation of human immunodeficiency virus. We've got a 150-year process known as Koch's postulates for determining whether a microorganism is causing a disease. What you do, you isolate the microorganism, you purify it, and then what you do is you take it and try to infect a healthy host. To get the disease, you're trying to blame on the drug, on the bug. So the problem is they never even did that. The very first thing, way back in the 80s when HIV first reared its head, was let's take a look and see if we can find the gold standard isolation of that. There was never a gold standard isolation of the novel SARS-CoV-2 virus either. People just assumed that had been found. And once again, we then reverted to our pre-programming with all these movies we've seen on what would happen if a deadly virus got loose. And we've got all sorts of problems these days with the whole theory of viruses anyway, and that's a whole other thing. Look at this. If you think you're completely healthy, you've not had enough tests yet. You'll find something to scare the pants off you. Here you go. Common tests routinely offered by UK GP surgeries: blood pressure checks, cholesterol testing, blood glucose diabetes screening, liver and kidney function blood test, cervical screening, mammograms, stool sample tests. I've got contacted by my local medical group, which I haven't been to for decades. And they said, we've just noticed from our records that you have turned 65. We now require a stool sample from you. I said, no problem at all. I'll pop it in the Tesco's bag, drop it on the bonnet of your Jag. Prostate-specific antigen, PSA. The guy who invented or discovered PSA, his name is Dr. Richard Ablin. He then wrote a book called The Great Prostate Hoax. You don't use PSA as a stock market indicator for prostate problems. That was his whole thing. BMI and weight assessments, lifestyle risk questionnaires, medication reviews and recalls. Get the idea. So the whole system is geared up to call you in, to get you in. By the way, we tried this out. I mean, when my wife fell unaccountably pregnant all those years ago and gave birth to Anna, she gave birth to Anna on the living room couch. Now I said to her, look, we'll go look around Tunbridge Wells, see if you like that birthing unit. We can do Maidstone if you want, but I'd rather you didn't, because it's Maidstone. Anyway, she looked around these, but she goes, no, I'm going to have it at home. She's 42 at this point, right? So she's kind of slightly at the statute of limitations for this, but not over the limit. So we get the midwives in, and lo and behold, Anna is born on the living room couch, in exactly the same place that we had 6 puppies birthed. In exactly the same place where a Labrador actually made a point of going there and dying. We have a Stargate in our living room. Stuff comes in, stuff goes out. Get the idea? Anna has never been to a doctor in her life. She goes to the dentist twice a year for a checkup, never had a filling, and she's now just coming up to 18, so she's literally doing her A-levels right now, and the kid doesn't get sick. She winds me up like you wouldn't believe. She's very, very smart, but she doesn't get sick. Isn't that something? And yet I come across families all the time. Now, this is why it's important for us to know what doctors are good at doing, where they're hopeless, and where they're downright dangerous. I used to ride motorcycles professionally for 10 years. I was always flying off them or breaking things, and I wanted those guys. What I learned early on is the moment you can hobble, you get the hell out of there. Right? Then go home and carry on. So there's no question that we need doctors. The thing is, what are they good at doing? Where are they hopeless? And where are they downright dangerous? So we'll take a look at that in a minute. So they scare you and they fear produces symptoms. A brilliant shortcut, of course, is knowing the battlefield you're on. And I mentioned earlier, here's the big question. Once again, this comes back to what we put in the Little Book of Real Wisdom, and that is this. If you're sick, you ask 2 questions. Here they are. It's the 40,000-foot view. What will the medical system do for me, and will it work? Most importantly, what can I do for myself? Nobody asks that second question at all. Nobody answers. And by the way, it's not just what you do, it's what you stop doing. Lots of people say, oh, I'm sick, what should I do? Rather than I'm sick, what should I stop doing? What should I stop taking? What should I stop eating? And so on. Doctor, you just need to diet and exercise and you'll start feeling better. Me. So it's terminal then. A lot of people are not even prepared to take straightforward steps in order to get themselves back online. This is interesting. Now, I'm a big fan of this group. SayerG runs greenmedinfo.com. Anybody tie into those guys? Okay, great people. Green, as in the color, medinfo.com. Get their free newsletter. He comes up with this. This is a stunner. I'm going to read it to you. As I write this in 2025, SayerG says, the American healthcare system consumes $4.8 trillion annually, more than the entire gross domestic product of Germany. We have more specialists, more drugs, more procedures, more sophisticated imaging technology than ever before in human history, and yet, by nearly every meaningful metric, we're sicker than ever. Chronic disease affects 60% of Americans. Mental health disorders have reached epidemic proportions. The most damning of all, medical errors in correctly prescribed medications have become the third leading cause of death. The maths is staggering. Each year, over 440,000 Americans die from preventable medical errors. Another 128,000 die from properly prescribed pharmaceuticals. That's more than 500,000 casualties annually from a system designed to heal. To put this into perspective, we lost 58,220 American lives during the entire Vietnam War. Our medical system kills that many people every 6 weeks. So you are completely entitled to ask that simple question: what can doctors do for me? Will it work? And more importantly, what am I able to do for myself? By the way, one thing, we know what lifespan is. Have you thought about what health span is? Health span is interesting. It's the number of years that the average man or woman lives in good health. The lifespan health span gap gets wider all the time. So what we're seeing as time goes by, while the system continues to operate, the medical system continues to operate, the food system continues to poison us, we're seeing that gap widen. Excuse me. So we're seeing that people are spending a lot more of their time in ill health, requiring medicines, care, all of that. Get yourself in the driver's seat. It's going to feel scary to begin with, but it's where you need to be. Let's start with doctors. So let's find out what doctors are doing, where they're good, where they're hopeless, and where they're downright dangerous. Number one, what are they good at? Diagnosis.